I'm here today with Heljarmadr to talk about the latest from Dark Funeral. We Are the Apocalypse, out March 18th on Century Media. I know you got your coffee, so I think you're ready to go on this.
Oh, yes, let's do it.
So first question I have for you is, who are we and We Are the Apocalypse?
Well, I will let that to be up to you to decide how you want to interpret that. We wanted the title to be kind of broad for us to, for everyone to make up their own mind about what it's about. If they want to be included, fine. If not, well, fuck off.
All right, because I thought, I wasn't sure if you guys meant we as we in Dark Funeral are the apocalypse, or we as in humanity, we are becoming the apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you can interpret it as you want, really. Put it in the context of the lyrics if you want to read them. So,
how much has the creative path evolved for you and the band over the last couple of records?
You mean my involvement in it?
No, in terms of the whole creation of the album, as the same format that you guys took when you first joined the band is still that same format that you guys took with this record, or you see things changing and evolving over the years?
No, actually, when I joined the band, the first thing I did with the band was the Nail Them to the Cross single, and that's when me and Arman found our way of working, if you will. We have our own home studios, and we send files back and forth. Completely misanthropic, you never even see each other, sometimes with a phone call, but but it's been working well that way, because we have different like daily routines and schedules, so we don't have to like sit in the same room, find the time, find the schedule. He would send me a couple of riffs that he recorded. I will send him some feedback on that, maybe adding some demo vocals just to see how things sound, and that's how we've been building both Where Shadows album and this one. I think it's a really good way of working, because it has been like zero stress. We've been able to just take the time we need and work whenever we have time in our own studios, instead of trying to set up some meetings that gets postponed and, the usual crap, life.
Yeah, life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah.
Does the past of the band define how you guys move forward creatively and with the sound? Or, you guys pay homage to the past, but you're also looking towards the future as a way to evolve where Dark Funeral is going to go?
I think music-wise, it's the same composer still. I mean, it's Arman has been there since the very first songs back in the early 90s. But since I joined, I think Nail Them to the Cross was kind of my way of paying homage to the old Dark Funeral, the Dark Funeral that I grew up with. I wanted in a way to like make that like the Dark Funeral song from my perspective, to introduce myself with it too. But once that was said and done, we kind of moved on together, and we've been like evolving together, I think, musically, since, well, as I said, Nail Them is my first contribution. I think we have got some places since there on the new album.
Speaking of the new album, what do you feel is the most unique characteristic that this new record will offer the fans?
I think because of this pandemic, we had the time to sit down for 2 years, basically. And we haven't been lazy. We've been working these years and not being interrupted by concerts or, again, life.
Life, yeah.
Yeah. So we have been able to maybe find and locate all the edges that we want to either make more pointy or we want to round them off. I mean, it's worked through and through more, I think, than any album I've ever been on. I don't think any album has been this worked through from start to finish, and with every little detail being under the loop, Mm-hmm. So I think that is the difference, and I hope that people hear that also. That it's hard to judge from two singles, but when they hear the whole album, to see the whole context of things, that they will see the same thing as we do.
Having that extra time, is there a positive, but is there also a negative in there? Because I feel like when you have so much time to work on a record, like you said, you can fine tune all these little details, but then you can really get lost in the weeds, and you can get lost within your head in terms of, oh, is this really what we want? So do you see that as just a positive, or there were some negatives?
No, I don't see it as negative at all. I mean, if we had another year, maybe it would have become that, for sure. No, but Actually, we haven't been rushing anything, and we haven't been delaying anything either, because when we were like, okay, that's a wrap. We have the demos for this album now. Let's book a studio. So we haven't been procrastinating or waiting for this pandemic to ease off or something. No, we've been, the workflow has been constant, and we haven't been giving a shit if the pandemic is on or not. We have been doing this album, and now it seems that we were on par with how the pandemic seems to be ending now finally. So the timing seems to be all right, but it hasn't been planned. It just happened that way, and we are done with the album. So we decided to record it, and when we had recorded, we listened to the mix, and when it was done, and no, we haven't been rushing anything, and that has been awesome. Not to rush, but also not to procrastinate, because there's always a next step. So you can't just sit around and hold stuff forever. That's also pointless.
So when you look at this album and you look at the previous records that you were involved with this album less challenging due to the extra time that you guys had?
No, but you had the time to put in more effort into it.
Yeah,
I think that is the main difference. It's not like other albums have been effortless, or it's just, it's quite common that you have some kind of deadline set up for you. You have to enter the studio and this and that time, because maybe it needs to be matching with touring schedule, and everyone is on your back like, wow. And that was the case before the pandemic. Actually, we were like being whipped from, everyone was like nagging, when are you gonna, and we said the same thing: when it's done, there's no point in rushing us, because the only thing you will do is create a writer's block, and it will take even longer. Mm-hmm. So shut the fuck up, basically.
Yeah. Just wait for
and the pandemic came, and everyone shut up, so we could just do our shit. We could work.
Yeah, you guys were left. You guys were left to your own devices.
Yeah, finally, awesome.
I love the flow that this album has from a structural perspective. I thought the album was really well put together. It has an impact into the atmosphere, and then it has an impact into the overall experience. How much time do you guys put in, and what is the approach that you take once you have these songs in terms of how you want to bring them together in order for the album to not just have the strength of the individual tracks, but then the strength of the collective?
Well, when you're creating song after song after song, of course, what you listen to, because when we have demos, we put them in their phones, go out for walks, go to the gym, do all these things that doesn't involve sitting still. Listening to stuff while moving is, I think, the best. The car is fantastic. It's a fantastic place to listen to music, because you don't have any obstructions except traffic and all that crap. But that's irrelevant. So I think after a while, when you start to have almost an album, they kind of start to place themselves in a bit, and you hear them. Sometimes I put the shuffle also, just to get them in a unexpected order, because of course you get used to it. But then in the end, you have to think, okay, this is going to be a vinyl in the end. So you need to have how to kickstart A side, and how do you want to start the B side, and how do you want to end the A side and end the B side. I think those are the parameters that creates the most dynamic, most important in dynamic. You don't want to put two similar songs next to each other. It's about finding that flow, and I think that kind of happen almost naturally with this, because as you say, you don't have two songs next to each other that sound the same.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The album has a great flow. When I was looking at the sound, when I was listening to this record, the way I described the sound is that you guys created a nucleus that stays very constant across each and every single song. But then outside of that nucleus, there's a little bit of a control chaos that changes from track to track. That was my definition of the soundscape on this record. How would you define it?
I think you're pretty much on point with that. I think the sound is very organic. People mistake that for, it doesn't sound, it sounds weak, or it sounds, but the thing is that you need to raise your volume on your stereo, because when those peaks come, they fucking come, Mm-hmm. When you have this compressed sound, everything sounds the same, and these details don't stick out. It's like when you listen to classical music, you have the dynamics. Now you have this fucking slow hammering on the drums, and then you go the boom, bombastic, you know, the Wagner. If you compress that into like same level, everything, it will sound like shit.
Mhm.
Or at least boring. It doesn't necessarily have to sound like shit because it's fantastic music still, but it's an approach that I really like. And Daniel, that we worked with in the studio, he kind of made everything very, very organic from the start, in the way of mic placement with the drums, how the guitars were recorded, and even my placement in the room when I did the vocals, because I didn't have a screen in front of me like you usually do. I was singing into an open room, so the reverb is basically authentic.
Mhm.
So even less effects put on things. So it was placed in a way that if we were on a stage almost, and you would hear it from there. Hard to explain, but I think that gives the sound a lot of room. And if you're not used to listen to music that way, if you're used to this super compressed shit, well, of course it's gonna sound weird. But
Yeah, I think
take
what
the
you mean,
volume up a bit.
it's almost like it doesn't have borders. The sound doesn't have borders. It just kind of like travels into infinity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
takes me to my next question. It's almost like this record is built like a movie score in the same sense. Do you get that same vibe that it's almost like you guys created a movie soundtrack of sorts?
Yeah, I mean, we have been also thinking about that in the process, that it feels like it might be a movie, it might also be a book, you know. You have like it's a continuation, it's a story without a defined concept, but the concept you create in your head. And I
Exactly.
think the title "We Are the Apocalypse" is kind of, it captures that, because the title was the last thing that we made on this album. We had everything done, but what the fuck are we gonna call it? We don't know. And everyone was asking, what are we gonna call it? We need it for press releases and all that shit. We don't know. So we had a little powwow and sat down, and well, "We Are the Apocalypse" is very like versatile. I mean, it can work for everything. It's very wide, and I mean, it would be a really cool movie title too,
Yes.
actually. So maybe that came as a reflection of this. I don't know. Maybe.
It's one of those, who came first, the chicken or the egg? You're not quite
Yeah.
sure, but they work really well together.
Yeah. Exactly.
When it comes to the lyrical content, at what point in the process do you guys start to look at the lyrics, and what impact to the music do the lyrics have? Do you guys sometimes have to change things a little bit in order for the lyrics to fit in perfectly, or you work around it?
Yeah. It's. I mean, Ariman is an amazing riff writer. And when I get his riffs, and of course, sounds very weird to say, but I need to ask the music what it's about, you know, and it needs to tell me something. And when I start putting these words together, the first demos always sound very basic, and then I send it back. How about this? And then he might be like, "Oh yes." And then if we go up here because of this, or you know, so the words affect the music, and the music affects the word, and in the end, it has to match. Otherwise, it doesn't make much sense.
Do you have a little bit of a black book that you write things down, you jot things down, and then you bring some of those ideas when it's time to put a record together, or you let the music inspire you in terms of what it's going to be written for that specific album?
It's a bit of both, I think. I used to have actually a black book, but these days my black book is my phone to take notes, you know. Yeah, it's like that. My notepad is full of ideas that I got in the car, in the bus, walking in the street, seeing a bird kill another bird, you know. Whatever shit that comes to mind, I write everything down. And when I am starting to go into a song, of course I check my notes, of course. Most of the time though, there is nothing there to get, but the music is telling me something completely new. But then those notes might be handy to fill in the blanks. You know, I need something here that connects this with this, because line 1 and 3 is awesome, but where is the 2? Maybe there is something there. And I write both in Swedish and in English, so sometimes I find the weird shit that I need to find in my notes. But yes, I do have a load of notes, and I write a lot of poetry too, so I have shit tons of those kind of materials also to pick from.
Yeah, it's nice to have something like that in your back pocket. You know what I mean? Like maybe takes a little bit of the pressure off.
No, no, it doesn't really. But the thing is that the song needs to tell you what it want to be about, and then you need to do the best you can to deliver that.
Do you come into an album with personal goals, or for you at this point it's all about serving Dark Funeral and creating what's best for what the album calls for, as we were talking about the lyrics?
I mean, I go into the writing process with doing the best music that I can possibly make. I mean, to set like bars and stuff, I think that's quite pointless, because who is going to judge what is what in the end? In the end, it's your own preference. I mean, all these songs on this album, these are our own preferences. We didn't write any extra songs, but we threw away a lot of riffs, and we threw away a lot of vocal lines and lyrics that didn't fit. We didn't throw them away, but we put them aside. So this is what we preferred to deliver. This is what we chose to deliver. Nothing more, nothing less. And the only goal we had was to make an album. And this is the album that we are right now, basically.
Was this a demanding record for you vocally?
No, but it was quite fun to do, because there are some surprises in the delivery there. I think that was interesting to try in the studio, and it was daring to actually say, okay, let's keep this, instead of just erasing and going with my normal style of vocals.
Yeah, with more traditional approach.
Yeah. So that was fun. That was fun. And on the demos, those things were there, but not as far out as it became in the end.
Not as noticeable. So do you feel like that approach helped? Because sound-wise, the album has a lot of life, has a lot of ups and downs. But I felt that vocally you matched that same approach with ups and downs. It was not like a one-size-fits-all, that what do you get in the first song, it's going to be exactly what you're going to get all the way through. Does that create even more movement within the album when you have both being that way?
I guess so. And I really like to sing dynamically too. I mean, it's way more fun, and it's way more challenging for me as a singer to go from the deepest depths to this spoken parts, and then go in this completely crazy, extremely long screams. To put that together is, I mean, I enjoy it, and I enjoy performing that, rather than just having the same tonality all the time, which can be quite boring. And I mean, why not? It's an instrument after all, and who sets the rules anyway?
I have one last question for you. It's been really interesting picking your brain about this Dark Funeral album. And the last question is, if you were looking at this album and this album is a mirror, what reflection would you see of yourself in it?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know. I would see the best that I can do at this given point in time, I guess. I don't know how else to answer that.
I think that's a very good answer, because the album sounds phenomenal, and I thought you did a wonderful job with it. So magnificent record. It's an album that's, I feel there's going to be elements that are going to surprise the fans, but at the same time, the Dark Funeral DNA is still alive and well throughout every single track. So, and that's what I meant by that nucleus. You guys were able to keep that nucleus of the band alive and well, but at the same time still offer some new elements that are going to be really exciting for fans to listen to. So congratulations on the record.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you.
It was a pleasure. Take care.
Take care. See ya.